As far as I'm concerned, this is win or bust for Ten Hag's future going forward at Man United Football Club. I don't want there to be any ifs, buts and maybe, shoulda, woulda, coulda. We have to win that final on Sunday. Nobody remembers the losers. Everybody remembers the winners. So we need to get the win nice and early if possible. League Cup final on Sunday at Wembley. Manchester United versus Newcastle. A chance to win the first domestic trophy on offer this season. Before I go balls deep into the preview, did you know the former President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, didn't wear makeup when being interviewed? Unlike some who wear lipstick on a live stream because they pretend to be a woman called Sandra. Someone called them any white coats to take said person away. Now I want to go back to what happened last night after we beat Barcelona 2-1 on the night and went through overall and aggregate. I would have rather lost against Barcelona over 2 legs rather than lose against Newcastle. Because the Europa League, there's still a lot of games. We're in round 16. We face Real Betis. The first leg's at home. Then Real Betis away. I don't think we're going to win the Premier League, the FA Cup, or the Europa League. So the League Cup is the next best thing. And I usually want to win the League Cup, but we're the only ones who can stop Newcastle in their tracks. I don't want to see the dirty barcodes celebrating or lifting the trophy aloft. It can't happen. I won't allow it, and no Man United player on that pitch on Sunday should allow it either. It was an electrifying performance against Barcelona, and it was very, very good. But I'm not going to rub it in Barcelona's faces that we beat them. I don't know why some fans trying to have a rivalry with Barcelona. It doesn't make sense to me. We hardly play Barcelona. So it's weird, isn't it? Very weird. But I'm not going to be gloating. And hopefully it's not going to be after the Lord Mayor show. I thought Anthony coming back, getting a goal was very important. It was 100% a penalty kick. I don't understand why anybody would say different. If you thought that wasn't a penalty kick, you have a lack of knowledge about football and a lack of knowledge about the game of football. Or you got red-tinted spectacles, or you need to get rid of those Ben Mitchell glasses and get yourself some proper glasses so you can see what people like me saw last night. Bruno Fernandes was tugging him the moment the Barcelona players tried to get past. That's a nailed cast iron guarantee penalty kick, nailed on 100%. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. And I'll tell you why it's a fact. Because it was given. But in the end, it didn't matter. Did it? For what? For the second half team talk at half time. You know, and that separates the great managers from the world-class managers. You know what I mean? Losing at half time, in the dressing room, telling your players you didn't like that first half performance, go out in the second half and get the win over the line, and they did that. But we need to stay focused and, you know, make sure that we don't let this result get ahead of ourselves, get ahead of it. And yeah, good result, but the game I'm focusing on is Newcastle. That's the important game. The 2-legged against Barcelona for me was a free hit. Now, the team I'm going to pick, before I get on to the dirty barcodes, got a lot to say about them. De Gea in goal. I want to see Dalot right back. I want to see Malacia at left back. Centre backs Martinez and Varane. Casemiro, Bruno, Sabitzer, Rashford up front, Sancho, Anthony, and Garnacho. That's the team that I personally would pick. And I'm going to go for a Rashford hat-trick, 3-0 to Man United. Now, Newcastle, why aye man? Last time they won a trophy was in the same decade that Spurs won a league title. In 1969, Newcastle won the Fez Cup. Right? The only trophy they've won was in black and white. And also, it was when Stan and Hilda Ogden on Coronation Street discovered colour television for the first time. Middlesbrough's League Cup success was in colour. They also got to a European UEFA Cup final. Newcastle have drawn so many games. I think Eddie Howe is no better than Alan Pardew. Newcastle fans need to realise, I know they're not the full shin and all that jazz, that Alan Pardew is doing the same amount Eddie Howe's doing the same job that Alan Pardew did. Don't forget, you finished 5th and you got into the UEFA Cup. And Alan Pardew spent less money than Eddie Howe has. And let's not forget that Newcastle, they wanted Unai Emery. Eddie Howe wasn't their first choice. They didn't have to pay a fee for him because he left Bournemouth. And he could have went to Celtic, but he declined them. And he was only selected until somebody else better comes along. Eddie Howe's not going to give Newcastle the success. Steve Bruce is a better manager than Eddie Howe. The majority, about 5 or 6, in the Newcastle lineup are Steve Bruce signings. And Mourinho always used to say, it's what you inherit. And look what Eddie Howe inherited. And if they weren't good enough, the signings that Steve Bruce brought to Newcastle, why aren't they gone? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Because you left a very good squad. Look what Ollie inherited. De Gea, Rashford. You know? And we have to beat Newcastle. I hate them with every fibre of my body. As Sykes Ferguson once said, you're just a wee club in the northeast, and that's all you ever will be. So mind the gap. And I said that back in the 2022, we will finish above you. You didn't finish above us in the 90s when you had money, and you most certainly won't finish above us now. And to beat you would be a great fillet. And it will show when my club Manchester United have come. Risen like the phoenix from the ashes. And I want to see Geordies crying on Sunday at Wembley. They can pan right onto them, just like the Ukrainian fans when Wales beat them by 1-0 courtesy of Gareth Bale and a little bit of help from Wayne Hennessy as well. Newcastle will fade away just like previous seasons. You're not a big club. You're a small, microscopic club, and that's all you ever will be. Stop trying to force a rivalry with us. The only thing you're doing is you're the new kids on the block and you're stepping on our toes. But you won't do anything. I'm not scared of Newcastle. I'll be like others, praising you, the this, the that. And Steve Bruce, let's not forget, he finished above Hasenhüttl and Graham Potter in the Premier League. Not bad for a manager that wasn't good enough for Newcastle, supposedly. But I think Steve Bruce would have done a similar job than Eddie Howe. Spending money, that's the only reason you've got there. And look at Everton. You know, Marco Silva inherited, a poor team. Steve Bruce did fantastic for Newcastle. The way he was treated was shambolic. And one of these days, you'll be begging for Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley to come back when you're left crippled in debt when your owners do a runner. That's what's going to happen. So, come on Man United, don't let me down. Let's beat Newcastle, let's put them back in their box and send it back to the northeast, crying their eyes out. Lovely jubbly, as Del Boy once said.